Welcome to the Control Z podcast. I am Zane Lamprey with Pumpkin and Tyler.
And me.
Today, our guest is Hazen Audel. And if you don't know who Hazen Audel is, come on this journey with me and let's meet him together. Hazen is the host of Primal Survivor, a show on Nat Geo where he has to get from point A to point B across the Congo, the Andes, the Sahara, that kind of stuff. It's a pretty amazing show. Now, this is a segment, Tyler, that we call Am I a Stalker?
Okay.
I'm going to give you some information, and you're going to tell me if I'm a stalker or not.
All right,
okay.
I'm taking notes.
Thank. So when I went up last Christmas to my sister-in-law's house, so Mel's twin sister's house, her and her kids, who are like, 8 and 11, I should probably know this number, they're watching Primal Survivor. They're watching this show. I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, what is this show they're watching? She's like, they're addicted to it. It's always on. She's like, and it's so good. This guy's name is Hazen. I'm like, okay, I don't know who this is. And I just sit down like, all right, I'm going to see who this fucker is, you know? And I sit down and I'm just like, oh, this guy's like cool. He's non-pretentious. I don't know how to say it. Like when he's doing his thing, you feel like you're part of the journey. And so I'm watching it. I'm like, wow, this guy is amazing, and he's such a good host. Like I want to watch more. I like him. I want to travel with him. That's
Do you think you see that because you have so much experience in hosting that you like see things maybe that like me as someone not having hosted shows before might see in them?
Yeah, because I'm watching things like, oh, I see what he did there. I see why he did that. Like, oh, this guy's a natural. He's great at this. And so I DM'd him. And I told Mel and her sister, like, what? No, you can't. What are you doing? You can't do that. Are you crazy? You're a stalker. I'm like, what? That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
And I just said something nice, like, hey man, I watched your show. You are a natural. I just to let you know, like, that I see what you're doing and you're doing a great job. And I want you to know that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing in life. And he responded back like the next morning, oh my God, that's so nice. Thank you. And we just chatted a little bit. And then, of course, my wife is just mortified that I reached out to him, and then I did a stand-up show in Spokane a few months ago. April, yeah, and he's like, oh, I live in Spokane, because I think I'm like, hey, I'm doing stand-up. I do it all over the country. So if there's ever a show near you, let me know and I'll give you tickets. So he's like, oh, I'm in Spokane and you'll be here in a few weeks. So I'm like, yeah, do that. And then we started talking. He's like, I'll take you on a hike. Let's go. I'm like, dude, you kidding me? I get to go on a hike with Hazen Audel? Like, I'm doing it. So I added an off day there. And then we spent a few days. He came to the show, but the day before, the day after, we just like, you know, he wakes up early. So we got up early at like 6:30 and got coffee and did stuff and hung out at his house. And then he's building himself. And he's such a cool dude. Am I a stalker?
It's stalker-ish, yeah.
You know,
I think they call it like a mild to red flag.
Isn't like a stalker an attempt at friendship that failed? You know, if it's successful, if you're like, no, because like how many people like have watched me and said like, oh, dude, I could hang out with this guy. We could be best friends, you know, and it kind of maybe reaches out with the hope that there's a spark. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing. Like but I'm also like, a comrade, right? Like we do the same kind of thing. He has a show on Nat Geo. I had 2 shows on Nat Geo. It's not like I'm coming out of left field here.
Yeah, you guys could have ran into each other in the break room, in theory. You know, the Nat Geo break room.
Yes, at the water cooler.
Yes.
Exactly right. And so, yes, exactly right. So I just forced it. And so, yeah, we hung out. We talked more after that trip. And then I was like, look, here's some things I think you should be doing. I think you should have a book. I think you should have a sponsorship, and I don't see that you have it, and I don't understand why. And so I was like, look, come out to LA. We'll hang out. We'll eat. We'll drink. We'll do some hikes, and we'll take some meetings, and I'll introduce you to some people. And so he did it. He came out here for the. Were you over here at all?
Yeah, I saw Hazen when he was out here.
When he was here, okay.
Yeah.
Where? I don't remember.
In your kitchen.
Oh, that's right. You came over. That's exactly right. In your kitchen. And so we had a great time. He left with some direction on some things. I mean, the fact that he doesn't have a book is like blows my mind. I came up with an idea for one. It's called Yes, the World is Ending. Don't worry, I got you. And it's Hazen just like telling you what to do, because I have a hike behind my house. And so we woke up early and went out hiking. And by the way, he always wears flip-flops, even when he's crossing the Congo. And so, of course, I'm hiking in flip-flops. I'm not going to wear hiking shoes like I normally do. I'm with Hazen.
You got to be on his level, yeah.
I had to. And so we went up there, and here's the thing about Hazen. From the moment you meet him, you realize he is exactly that guy from TV. I like to think that I am as well, but like he is that guy. And we went up for a hike, and it took us like a half an hour to get a mile because he kept stopping and looking at plants and lizards.
Well, he's just trying to feed you different plants he finds as well.
He fed me like 5 different things just at the first half mile of the trail.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
And not only that, you're telling me you started doing it to other people as you saw along the trail. You're like, hey, family, eat this. That's exactly how it went.
There was a family that were just like, why are you guys wearing flip-flops? Because they're all wearing like, hiking shoes and stuff. And with water bottles. Yeah. And we're just like in flip-flops and board shorts walking up there. And I said, have you ever seen a show called Primal Survivor? This guy, he like travels across the Congo. He travels across the Sahara, the Andes, all these places. And he usually wears flip-flops. He's like, oh. And I go, and that's the guy. She's like, oh. And I go, yeah, he's up here teaching me like stuff I can eat. And there's a plant, these yellow flowered plants that line the whole path here. Fryman Canyon is the trail behind my house. And
if you want to lightly stalk,
Zane, me, you can wait there. Yeah. I'm usually there every day. and so I'm like, yeah. And so I went and picked it, and I started eating it. You can eat it. And she's like, what? Really? No. And then he's like, yeah. And then of course he talks more intelligently about it. Yeah. It's actually wild mustard. And so, everyone that says no, but by the end of this 5-minute exchange, they're all eating it, which is just so amazing. You can eat the leaves and salad. You can eat the plants. You can let them dry out and make mustard out of it. So all these different things. And I still have like residue in my fingers, this black residue from black walnut that he was like, here, put this on your hands. And it's
still a lasting effect.
Well, it's clear. It's clear. And then after like 10 minutes, it's just your hands are all like, black, like the black walnut. And so
basically all weekend you're just
eating things.
Eating things, yeah.
Eating things that we find.
You're like, I'll take you to a restaurant. You take me to the park.
We're walking around the neighborhood. He's like, oh, and he says like the Latin name of this flower, and he starts eating it. I'm like, okay, this is amazing. So, in this interview that we shot that you're about to watch, this is about a month and a half old.
And it was at his house.
At his house.
The first and only one so far that we filmed not in our studio.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's going to feel very authentically him because you see parts of his house, like and we walked around and we did like a tour. He has this beautiful like commune thing that
I say commune too, but it's just him living there. But it feels like a commune. There's a bunch of different houses, a barn, and all this kind of stuff. We should have actually included like a tour of that. But in the video, but we did get it because we were also shooting the documentary.
Maybe we'll see how ambitious I get.
No, I don't think you need to do it.
It was also one of those things where he came to the show, and earlier in the day, I was like, oh, survival show. Here's a funny idea I have about a joke about it. This should be a good idea. I should try it in front of the survival show guy.
You did.
And then I just bombed it
Why don't you tell us what happened?
I don't remember the joke per se. I blocked it out of my mind, but I think essentially the premise was like, sure, we have survival shows now. What are we going to have in like 20 years? And it's just like, oh shit, you gotta survive, or something like even less thought out than that. And I just remember being like, yep, I just bombed a survival show joke in front of the survival show guy.
And if you remember, I had one too. I said, oh, if everything goes to shit, well, let's just all meet at Hazen's house. And I didn't do a good enough job of setting up who he was and the show he did, so everyone's like, why would we go to his house? So
just some guy's house, I guess.
And the other thing too, I think interesting, and when watching this interview that we'll get to in a sec, is the fact that this is early in my friendship with him. And we've since spent multiple days together and stuff. And so this is I think the day after the day that I met him. Yeah. And so there wasn't as much of a connection. I think now if I did an interview with him, which I'll do another one, it'll be a little bit more casual, because we're not kind of feeling each other out. This is a great,
scratching the surface and kind of getting like that early ideas. And it's a great interview.
It is. You're right. It's also the beginning of the premise of this show. And as people continue to listen to it, they will also be on a journey with us about like how do you get people to talk about the past and to reflect on things? I have so many things I would redo.
Right.
You know, like I like where I am. I love my relationship with Mel. I love my marriage, my friendship. I love where I live. But if I were to go back, I would first. No one's even brought this up. Would I go back and buy Apple stock? Would I go back? Would I buy Google stock? Would I go back and would I buy Bitcoin? I would go back and buy as much Bitcoin as I could. Which, by the way, you buy $100,000 worth of Bitcoin at the right moment, you have $100 million or more. And then I would go and I would make my own national park. So those aren't necessarily regrets, but if I could go back in time, I think about this every day. And I'm surprised especially when people are told about the premise of the show, like I would think that they, with the days leading up to it, would have these thoughts about things that they would redo.
I think people get really precious about the things that they did that led them to where they're at. And again, I think
that's it.
I think sometimes people get a little overwhelmed with the idea of well, just redo stuff and have a different path. It's not really going to happen, but why not just
I guess that's right.
it? Like you just said, a really wild one is buy Bitcoin and have a bunch of money and then open a park. Okay, that's aggressively going the other way, but why the hell not? We're just hypothetically-ing it.
And I think the interesting thing when we get to the Nitro interview, the Dan Clark interview, he has written books on this. He's thought about these things. So him going back and saying would you do steroids again? And he says yes. Right. I would go back into my 18-year-old self and say do these steroids. So I think if you sat down with Schwarzenegger for the same reason, you'd say would you go back and do the same thing you did? He would. So I think it's some people also just need a little help and coming out of their shell. But the other thing that we're doing to pivot on this a little bit is not necessarily what would you go back and change. It can also be what would you go back and tell yourself, yeah, do this. This was the right decision. How many points have you gotten to in life where you're you could go this road or this road and you chose one and you realize you chose the right one and you can go back and to your yourself and say, hey, by the way, everything's gonna be okay. Go this way. So I don't know, or I just think about it more than other people. A few quick announcements. We have a Zane crawl coming up in Key West on November
15th through the 17th.
15th through 17th. That's about half full right now.
Yeah, it's starting to fill up.
That is going to be so much fun. I've had so many people that have reached out to me that are telling me they're going to do it. And at some point, it's going to fill up because we have something that is has a limit, a people limit, a number limit. So we probably have to at some point just go, it's closed. Yeah. So if you are considering it, go to zanelamprey.com and you can get tickets to the Zane Crawl in Key West, to any of my stand-up shows, or potentially to Zanetoberfest in Chicago.
Yes, we had a small little scheduling hiccup, so we are pivoting from doing a weekend in Chicago.
I didn't have enough
a day.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time to do the days leading up to the Zane Crawl in Chicago, so we are now doing a Zanetoberfest in Chicago, which I've done before. In fact, I met my wife at a Zanetoberfest in New York. So if you would like to meet me with the intention of being in my life forever, come to...
This is the place. Not only that Mel, but also that's where you met Trent.
Trent was there
as well. So...
Trent was at that same exact one in New York City. That's amazing.
There's two people who invested in you.
That's all you got to do, guys. That's all you got to do. Just come to Zanetoberfest. So we're still working on venues. We want it to be amazing.
Yes.
At this moment in time, we do not have a venue locked down.
But we're confident.
So go to zanelamprey.com and you can get tickets there. And then right now, just in the current swing of things, I am in the Midwest doing shows. I'm probably somewhere in Minnesota. If you're listening to this as it comes out, if you're listening to this later on, I'm somewhere. I guarantee it. All right, you are about to meet Hazen Audel. If you did not know him before, I hope you leave this interview a fan. Go follow him at Hazen Audel. At Hazen Audel. HazenAudel.com. All that stuff. Hazen Audel. So Hazen and I started talking over DM.
Yeah.
I slid into his DMs. That's literally what happened. After going up for the holidays to my in-laws, and they just have Hazen's show on a loop, and their kids are just kind of staring at it. It's not SpongeBob. It's not any cartoons. It's like you And then my sister-in-law is like, shh, quiet, watch this part, and we're just like, I'm like, who is this motherfucker? I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Who
they
is
have
it?
good taste, though.
Yeah, they do have good taste. I found out later. And then I started watching it, and I was like, okay, just shh, you guys quiet. Hold on, what's he about to do? And so we're watching your shows, and I don't understand how I had never seen them before. You've been doing it for, you started in what, like, 15?
I mean, I was looking at old photos, and I was surprised that our first Primal Survivor, which was Survive the Tribe, close to 14 years ago.
Okay.
Amazingly
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
I don't even think my balls had dropped by then.
Yeah. One of them.
It just...
And so yeah, I just DM'd you and I was like, hey man, I just caught your stuff. It's like your authenticity is off the charts.
But I was catfished.
I did catfish you. And so then I was like coming through Spokane. I was like, hey, I'm doing a show, whatever, and I'm sounding like a creeper. But then last night you came to the hotel and picked me up. Now I'm gonna sum it up like this. I'm gonna kind of explain, if you know what Hazen does, and we've explained it before this interview. So you came in a vehicle that you had put together yourself, a mode of transportation you had put together yourself, like you often do in your shows. You brought me out into the middle of nowhere. I was a little concerned. And then we met some of the locals who prepared a meal for us. And it started with a prayer, and it ended with some ritual singing, right?
Yeah.
And then we left. And I was like, I didn't realize as it was happening that that's how I could sum it up. But we went to and I don't think they watch TV, so we can say it. There were some Seventh-day Adventists, is that right?
Yeah.
Who had you had met at a coffee shop and then invited you to dinner?
Yeah, I mean, it's a small town.
Yeah.
But they're so nice. You saw them. They're so nice. You can't
No,
turn them down. You
Yeah.
can't turn it on an offer from people like that. Like, hey, why don't you come on over for dinner? It wasn't weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, you want to
and you didn't set up any of it for me.
No, you just came at the right time.
I walked
just
in,
like that plane.
Yeah, perfect. Walked in. You didn't set up anything for me, and then we sat down and had this dinner. And here's the thing: I'm getting to meet you for the first time. I'm also meeting about 12 other people at what is basically a vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner with no TVs, no alcohol, no coffee, no meat.
I'll give you my perspective.
Yes,
at the same
please.
time, I just got off the plane. I was
Okay.
taking care of my folks in Arizona. Landed, knew that you came in, and you guys have been hanging out, and your crew have been hanging out all day. Sorry I had to leave, but I came back.
Yeah.
Knew I had these dinner engagements with this old dear friend of mine that I met at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
He and his very sweet wife.
Yeah.
Aside from that, we have nothing in common.
Right.
And but we were invited for a good wholesome dinner, and what am I going to do with you? You've been pining over me, and I've been. So I said,
Shut up, Trent.
What want to join me for dinner? I mean, I don't know these people very well, but just wait, come on.
Yeah, you're like, come, and I was like, I don't
I don't
you're like,
wanna
no,
be
you're coming. That's it. I'm like, done. All right, let's go.
And you rolled with it. You rolled with
I
the
did roll with it.
punches.
However, I said, you know what? I'll just meet you there. Just because I don't know, because I didn't know about you. I don't know if that's
We've
something.
never met before.
I don't know if this is something I'm getting roped into. Like, I leave there as a Seventh-day Adventist because again, during this whole thing happening, I'm catching in all this information, but I don't know your relationship here. I don't know your level of involvement.
Right.
So, and then we talked about it afterwards, and I think we had some good.
It was hilarious.
We had equal perspective on it.
But yeah, I mean, I will say, I roped you into this. We got in there. I was thinking it was just going to be the couple. I didn't know that it was going to be. I mean, word was out that Zane's in town.
Yeah, word was out that
Hazen's
Hazen
in
was
town.
coming over.
So they brought all their friends. I don't know how many people were there. There were like 12 people or something.
I don't know how many non-drinkers were there.
Yeah.
For Zane, in the beginning of the conversation, as we're sitting down at dinner, we had to say prayer. Great, which happens a lot. I mean, we do it at our Thanksgivings and stuff. And then, it wasn't actual Thanksgiving; it was just a dinner. And then we had to give one sentence about ourselves as we went around the circle.
It was like the first day of church camp.
It felt very much like that. It was very organized. And then you and I, as guests, could go and serve ourselves before anyone else could serve themselves.
And we had to say an interesting fact that we weren't allowed to elaborate on.
Yes.
We just had to throw out a little gold nugget or a bite, and then people around the table were going to ask us about.
And that's what happened.
I mean, these are rituals.
They knew what they were doing.
Non-Seventh-day Adventists could incorporate into their lives.
Yeah.
And make the world a better place.
It was very interesting.
We got cultured last night because
He did.
There were some of their progeny.
Yeah.
The love of their loins were there.
Yeah.
As
These
teenagers.
homeschooled weirdos that
nerds, proper
nerds, yeah,
proper
nerds.
I mean,
that
they
you're
came
just like,
over
what is going on?
for a debate
Yes,
contest.
exactly. And then here are these 17-year-old kids who are having conversation with two older dudes, and then when you're just like, okay, this kid is smart as a whip, and he's more able to carry on a conversation with an adult that I could ever, thinking that, like,
I didn't want to tell him because he already knew it, but that those kids were way smarter than I.
They blew
I
us away.
did not grow up like that.
No, they blew us away.
If there was dinner side chat,
Yeah.
I was down in the basement playing with Legos
Right.
or something, you know.
And then I was like, at the end, it's like 9:30. I'm like, all right, well, hey, this has been, thank you so much. And they go, no. And what
It's
they
starting
say?
to get weird. We got to go.
And what they say?
Yeah, they're like, no, wait, nobody's leaving.
Nobody's leaving.
We're all gonna sing. I didn't know if we were all gonna sing.
I didn't know.
Yeah, you're right.
And it was us all singing was never the plan. It was that the son, the like this incredible 17-year-old
golden
kid,
child,
was going to play the piano as the father sang show tunes.
No, it was true. And this boy wasn't playing like
No,
chopsticks.
No.
It was like full on some weird, obscure jazz improvising, and he was getting all funky.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say
17 years old. Okay, he was like a savant.
The father knew, because the father wanted to do it for himself. The father knew that this was, he had one song before we were going to go. So he sang the longest possible song he could sing. That's what it was.
And it was
it's pretty good.
I mean, awkward. I think he thought that you were this was his chance.
Oh, I see.
You were going to bring him into.
Call him in.
Could have been.
I need you for my show. And I invited them to come to the show, and then this morning, all of them politely declined. Okay, so, because they realized who I was. All right, so back to you.
My life, by the way.
Can you sum up? What's that?
That's my life, by the way. You just don't know what's going to happen. You guys show up. And what am I supposed to do? I can't kick you off my property.
For people who have seen your show, the experience that I got last night was incredibly authentic to who you are. For you to pick me up in this pickup truck, and then that, like, quite frankly, was the scariest car ride I've ever had, and bring me to this dinner and have this experience, this authentic experience, and the conversations that we had, I'd want nothing else. I want nothing else besides it. You know, the other thing was, like, you pick me up in a newish car, and we go to the Olive Garden. You know what I mean? Like that. It's like no. This is Hazen. The Hazen that you see is the Hazen that you get. You know, you're not, when you're out there doing your shows, you couldn't do it as long as you do it and not be authentic. And that's when I reached out to you. I was like, that's the thing that comes through. It's like, I can tell your authenticity about this. And I've, my wife bought a book for you about John Muir, who inspired people to appreciate nature, to appreciate the planet. And one thing that you have done and you're doing, again, in your authenticity, I don't know if you're setting out to do it, is that you are inspiring a younger generation and then bringing in their parents, because a lot of people that watch your shows, because they are family friendly, unlike anything I've ever made, is that these kids are watching you and they're appreciating nature, and you are that adult that talks to them like an adult and that they can relate to, because you're not talking down to them, you're not being silly, you're being completely authentic and living out there and doing what you and I as kids wanted to do when we grew up.
Yeah.
Right? And now you're doing it.
Thank you for saying all that. It is true. I mean, I think our experience that we shared yesterday, those people, it was a bizarre situation because it was so real, right?
They were
just like,
you know what?
Such good people.
Yeah.
Doing stuff that, I mean, sometimes we think that we need to create our own life.
Yeah.
And we think we're awesome. That's so incredibly selfish and naive.
Yeah.
You take everybody. I think it was Mr. Rogers that said, everybody knows something you don't.
Yeah, that's it.
And we went to a place, under normal circumstances, we would never rub shoulders with people like that. But then we got a lot out of it. They got a lot from us. And it was that human interaction stuff that I think in our modern day world, we're really lacking.
You know, what's interesting is that religion didn't come up. I had to kind of piece it together from just things I was observing. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the most, like, authentic conversations I've had in a long time. It's just people at a table that are engaged. It was very foreign foreign as in like Greek. You know, when you go to Greece, you sit down and you eat, but the meal is not an hour long. It's like a 5-hour long thing. That's what we had last night. It was very,
there was human connection there.
Yeah, it was great.
It was awesome. And as far as what you were saying earlier, the show, thank you. I mean, that's like the best. I think the best compliment is seeing a show that I couldn't have thought about the end result. The end result is not only are you getting, you're getting families sitting down together of all kinds of people. Yeah. And I mean, I've never been exposed to, I think a lot of us have never been exposed to social media, but now I've run into so many fascinating people around the world, all different kinds of walks of life.
Yeah.
And they all take little parts of what the show is.
Mm-hmm, right.
I mean, that's great that I'm the person in front of the camera, but my production company, the production crew that I work with, the talent, when people have a vision for how they want to have their camera work displayed, how they want to produce it, and then we're all working together as this collaborative effort. I look at it as we made a product that everybody can love. That's amazing.
And that's the thing too about it, right? It's stunning. It's stunning to look at.
It's good. Yeah.
It's escapism, right? If I'm sitting in my house and it's raining outside and I get to watch you walking through Africa or the Amazon or Southeast Asia or wherever it is, I get to come on this trip with you, because that's what it feels like, right? I'm coming on this journey with you. And for me, someone who's always been a bit of a naturalist, like not a bit of, very much so naturalist, you're doing the things that I would expect that you do. You're asking the questions that I would ask if I was there. Mm-hmm. Now we went and picked. Is this thistle?
Yeah, I don't want to distract. I'll just let it seep, then we'll talk about the thistle. But you're on something. Yeah.
But yeah. So sorry, he's pouring. For those listening, he just poured some tea.
I did.
And then also for those listening, we're sitting outside in his front yard. So yeah, you get to, like, you are doing the things that I would do if I could go to those things. Like, I have this, and it's been more and more the older I get, the more I have this longing to just like go for a 5-day walk by myself and just like kind of ground myself to nature, center myself, but also be surrounded by what I want to surround myself with. I think some people want to surround themselves with the chaos of a city. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's an age thing or if it's coming to terms with like who like my real identity or whatever it is. But like for me, like we're out here in your yard looking out at nature. Trent just had a chickadee standing on his finger, and we went looking for your porcupine friend, and you got cats, and you got your amazing dog over here. And like for me, like this, I live in LA. I'm over it. I've been over it for a while. My wife's been over it for longer. And it's not that it's like, the good thing about LA is the weather. You know what I mean? And when I moved out there when I was younger, the good thing was the opportunities. But now I've kind of made my mark, and I can play off of those things and do a tour. I don't need to be there anymore. And for me, I kind of like, I like this. I like what you're doing. I like what I see that you do. And again, like the stuff you did in your shows is the same thing that you're really doing in real life. Yeah. You're living that, you know?
I am lucky. Yeah. I will, when I'm not doing what I'm doing, I realize that it's the unfortunate thing of when you're on TV, a lot of people think you're some sort of a superhero or something.
Yeah. I'm a little let down, but continue.
When I'm doing this, I'm just doing to the best of my abilities, and I do what's natural. I'm not the most organized. I'm not, but then when I'm out, like Primal Survivor is not, it's what I've been doing since I kind of really truly found myself when I first started traveling at 19. Yeah. And I've always wanted to, I didn't come out with an agenda to share my passions about nature with. It's just who I am. Right. It's what I most love doing is seeing if I can strike up a conversation about nature with somebody and seeing if we can go explore together. Yeah. And I think when we're doing Primal Survivor and being involved with television, because I had no television experience ever before, I got it all the time from the film crews that had worked with all the different people, and they're like, you just when you're when the camera's not on you, you're still doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, you're still looking under rocks.
You're
and-
still
yeah.
looking for bugs.
Yeah.
You have mud on your ass, and you're sleeping with the bugs.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just how you are. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm so glad I can have you along
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
And it's,
And I have
it
been,
is.
yeah.
It's my dream. It's like, it's so cool. It's not fake. At least, at the end, it is TV. They make you do stuff for TV because you can't have an hour-long program of just me looking under logs for bugs.
Yeah.
But
I disagree, but continue.
but it truly is. I mean, it's like everybody's dream when you do something that you're most natural at, what you most love doing, and then I can share it.
Yeah.
I think before I had the television program, I was traveling, doing all this stuff on my own. It's not a place where you can bring your girlfriend to. That's for sure. And you just go and you have this sort of the blinders on with this reckless abandon of trying to explore and see critters, and you get yourself in trouble because of it. But the agenda was just seeing bugs, and then there's the adventure. You don't know what you're going to find, and I think so much of Primal Survivor and what the kind of television that we made it's just me. It's this guy right here.
Yeah.
But I'm experienced, but I still have this wanderlust, and we're going to find out. And that's the cool thing about making a Primal Survivor is the take home by the time we get footage in the can and we send it to the editors, and we got to bring it to the people that are paying for the program, like National Geographic. You tell them what they want to hear, what they're going to get, but then you show them this is actually what we found. We didn't plan to find this python. We didn't plan to have this sort of interaction with this amazing person that wound up stealing the show. If you see like the tribal people and the cultures, and the most unfortunate thing is a lot of these locations were there for about 2 weeks. There is like almost a year or 2 years in advance of logistical organizing and stuff to make these programs. But once we're on the ground, it's just me on the loose, and the camera people just have to keep the record button on.
Right.
And they're coming home with 24, 25, 26 hours of footage.
Yeah.
And it's just me doing what they're doing, jungle people doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Waking up because these people are sleeping out there with me a lot of times. They're in hammocks. They're in the mud. You don't know when an armadillo is going to run through. You don't know. And hopefully they have the camera. They're sleeping with the camera under their pillow.
Right.
We get this footage, and then the masters behind the editing room put it all together. But 26 hours of footage gets whittled down into 44 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's such a tragedy because there's so many stories that don't match the storyline of a show that carries through the TV.
Yeah.
I mean, what I really hope is I have my own channel, I have my own YouTube, I have my own something where it shows stories that don't match the story. It's the pure adventure. You don't I didn't know this guy was going to show up, and he's just incredibly awesome. And look at this crazy animal that we saw. It doesn't.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me for a second.
I'm sorry, but this is how I work. You can see how my brain is. Everything I'm saying is incoherent, but maybe we can put that on a YouTube channel, and some people living in some basement's gonna love it.
As I told you, I think that's the next. I think that's your next chapter. Okay, so what we do here is it's Control Z. You're gonna hit the undo button. Not necessarily the undo. I don't want to say that it's undo, and I don't want to preface it too much. It's just that you're going back in time to a period in your life, and you're giving yourself advice. I'm not setting it up in any sort of way. I'm not creating any parameters for you. It's kind of up to you to like set those parameters and decide what it is. So where are you going back first?
Well, I guess you have to go. I'm going back in time, but I'm going to a place that's most dear to my heart currently.
Okay.
I think.
Is that Ecuador?
No, I think just my state, my place in life right now. It's kind of amazing if you're a true human being, you're constantly growing, and you're constantly finding out things that you never thought you knew.
Okay.
And I think a big problem in this world is we all think we all have figured it out, and we become 25, and nowadays there's a bunch of 25-year-old life coaches that think they already know everything.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
But now I realize there's so many new avenues in life. And I've been fortunate because I've been able to travel and be led by my heart. And it's given me so much fortune in a lot of ways, not financial, but just who I am. True to me. But I think if I was to go back, like right now, I'm really invested in, this stage in my life where I can have a family, I can have a relationship. And I thought that I knew what that was all about in these previous years of all these other relationships and stuff. And I think I've been exposed to other people that have different takes of relationships. Now they're in their stage where they're raising kids. They have to be really intentional about maintaining a wonderful and still exciting and a life of growth with their partner. And they know that it's going to be. And I think if I was to look back, I had a dad that was very passionate. My folks are still married. They've been married for like 60 years. My dad trained me as a son, taking me to the wood shop, teaching me about working with my hands, being passionate about automobiles, because my dad builds hot rods. Total alter ego of nature, but he recognized I was passionate. My folks loved taking me outside. They didn't know anything. My dad took me out fishing. He didn't know shit about fishing, but he took me there. That was amazing as a parent. But I was thinking about just like where we had dinner last night. Those people kind of grew up differently. Sure, they can be interested in exposing their children to everything that they're passionate about, and that showed. But I think there was a structure there, whereas like probably the most important thing in your life is going to be the partner that you choose. So you can have wonderful children and you can have stability in your life, and then you can grow from there, and you can grow together from that. I don't think my family didn't verbalize that to me. They demonstrated things in other ways. But I think in today, now, I guess my own personal growth that I've been forced into is I live half my life abroad.
Right.
I see how other people live their lives and where their priorities are. So I'll have to be totally enmeshed in a tribe, thinking how they think, eating what they eat, and you become accustomed to all the sounds that they're listening to, and that's my life. I think I am pretty adaptable, but then I come back home, a place that I cherish, and it's yet another culture shock.
Right.
And going, wow,
because you're by yourself.
Yeah. I can kind of morph into things, but when I come back into the States and you're living in a tribe where you're surrounded with the sound of laughing children and people taking care of one another and growing food together, and no one's ever lonely.
Right.
And then I come back here and you get mesmerized by cars and all the doodads and trying to rekindle relationships, and you realize how different of a take different people have on life. And like I said, I think now a big focus of mine is being partnered up and wanting to share my life with somebody and have kids.
Are you going back in time to tell yourself something about that, or
Well,
is that just now?
I think what I'm saying is, I think I did what so much of our Western society does, is you're kind of trained to be this lone wolf. You're trained to persevere academically. You're going to go on your own. You're going to be the self-made man. And that is what works in the United States.
Right.
But then later on, when you have different priorities in life, where were you when you could have maybe known that a real big focus of your life and emphasis is also going to be your partnerships that you have along the way, rather than so many of us, it's all about us. You go to LA, you're going to make your millions, you're going to pursue your passions. All that stuff is totally wonderful. But I know a lot of people now that have had these amazing, successful lives, but once they kind of have reached that and see it, and they start to see other things, other important things in their lives, they're lonely. And I think
But how could you have prioritized that differently?
I don't know. I mean, And then I get, like, I think about,
Because you're living in that moment.
well, we can call it God's lessons, you know?
Oh, no, look at who
I know.
you hurt some feelings.
Here we are. I'm so sorry, Bells. We can call it, like, all these things. We only grow and have these sort of perspectives based on challenges in our life.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us have grown because we got successful. Real evaluations
yeah.
and real things that
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
are major upbreaks or major heartbreaks.
Yeah.
Deaths from our loved ones,
Failures.
losses of careers,
Yeah, right.
failures,
Yeah.
losses of health. Those are things that change your entire life's perspective,
Mhm.
whether you like it or not.
Mhm.
And so oftentimes those can be tragedies in the moment, and they reveal themselves
Mhm.
in the future. So, wow, that was the most valuable life lesson I've ever had. So I think right now, thinking
You're not
about,
making any changes when you do something right.
right.
Because then you're like, okay, I'm doing the right. I'm going to continue what I'm doing. You only make changes when you do something wrong, or
When
when
it's not
something
working
when
anymore.
something wrong happens. Yeah.
Mhm. So I think, what would I have changed more? I mean, I just
Can you go back to a moment? Can you go back to like there's that 19-year-old kid going to Ecuador?
You can't, because I mean, you can. I don't know. Is it God's plan? I don't know.
Yeah.
But somehow, when I was 19, I dropped out of school, and with $78 in my pocket, I went to Ecuador, with everyone surrounding me. Everybody that raised me said, "I won't come out alive. I'm going to get kidnapped. I'm going to get raped. I'm going to drink the water and die."
Mhm.
And I was going to be there until $78 ran out, which I thought was going to be a couple weeks.
Right.
I wound up, it's maybe a story for another time, but I wound up being taken in by an indigenous family, lived there for 8 months.
Mhm.
At 19 years old, I came back to the United States. Talk about culture shock. For 8 months, I hadn't lived with electricity. For 8 months, I had been living off of meat and fish and things that were grown from the forest.
Right.
And I knew 2 new languages when I came back. I couldn't really relate to,
Yeah.
to other 19-year-olds by the time I came back. And that set the stage for this kind of amazing path that I've been on.
So can you go back to that kid as he gets on a plane? Does he have doubt in his mind?
I was too naive. I had my laser-like
So
focus. I just wanted to see an emerald tree boa in real life.
So you can't even go back to him and say, "Hey, you're doing the right thing." If you did something, that's fine. You can go back and say that.
No, well,
But again, you were so.
I mean, you can't. I don't take my life for granted. I got great company right here.
Mhm.
My health is great. I have wonderful, amazing friends.
Mhm.
I think just what I want to pursue right now is the family part.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't go back and say, well, I wanted a family when I was 19.
Mhm.
Look at the wonderful amount of influence that I've had in television with other children around the world
Yeah,
and
that's okay.
families, and I love that.
Could you have
and
done
maybe,
the stuff that you've done with the family? I don't think so.
I don't know, but it's how it happened.
See,
and
honey, I'll be
it
back
may
in
have
6
happened for a
months.
reason. These hard things, and what was the lesson? I don't know, because I wouldn't have changed it until now. I want to change, so
Okay.
I'm working on something. But I think that's how you make changes. When I was 19, I just wanted to be in the jungle. It was as simple as that.
Yeah.
I went there.
And by the way, I did too, and I really did, but I didn't want to leave my friends and my stability, and like have my friends go off in different directions without me. It was honestly, that's the naivete, that this stupidity of it is that, like, my dad was in the Rotary, and they do a lot of like exchange programs, and we had a lot of exchange students in our house, and I could have gone off and done an exchange anywhere in the world that I wanted to go, and I didn't do it. As a sophomore, as a junior, as a senior, whenever you're allowed to do those things, I didn't do it, and I could have. And I would go back to that kid, and be like, go. Your friends are going nowhere. Some of them still haven't gone anywhere. Like, go back. Go live your life. Learn a foreign language. I always think about, like, what if I went to Spain, and I learned just 1 year. All I did, I don't have to do anything except learn Spanish, which is just exist, and learn Spanish guitar. just for a year. And now I go through life and I speak Spanish fluently and I play the Spanish guitar.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, to me, I don't know if that makes me happier. I'm a happy person, but like, I definitely would go back to that kid. I'm happy where I am, right? So I don't know if I'd change anything to lose my trajectory. But if I could go back to that kid and say, like, stop getting hung up on your safety nets, dude. Stop being afraid of adventure. Just go. Just get the fuck out of here. You think you have to go to, you know, I went to college. I went to a state school and I studied fine arts. I didn't leave a better artist than I went to school as. I should have, if I really wanted to be an artist, I should have moved to Paris with $78 in my pocket and said, go be a painter. And you know what? If I really wanted to be a painter and I moved to Paris with $78 in my pocket, what would I be 4 years later? I'd probably be a pretty phenomenal painter. So, and you did it. So, yeah. Right?
I think I remember way back when, I think one of the reasons why I was able to go at 19 by myself this is prior to the internet, you know.
Yeah.
Going there is I never had a wolf pack. I never had a group of friends that I felt like I had to stick around because I grew up being a misfit. I think we were talking about this earlier, just a nerd. My folks had never really been to I think they barely graduated high school if they did. And I went to school and was just kind of always went to my own drum, beated my own drum. Is that what they say?
Sure.
We were talking about that.
Yeah.
Anyways, did my own thing, and then I think I had to because I was always getting made fun of. If I was to play football, I could run hella fast, but I didn't know how to catch.
Yeah.
I didn't know which direction to go.
Yeah.
I could barely read in school. I had dyslexia. I was made fun of all the things, and I had no fashion sense or anything. And so, but I always wanted to be like the cool kids, right? Because they was always making fun of me. And then I think it was by the time I got older, maybe 17 years old, maybe 18, I finally realized to myself, I had some self-evaluation going, you know, those people that have been making fun of me and I've been going to school with ever since first grade, I don't want to be like them anymore.
Yeah, right.
I thought I was going to be, but I don't want to be like them. And then I can remember feeling self-conscious and never got invited to the parties and never got invited to go play on the games. And then when I came back from Ecuador after that time, and people were having some winter keggers or something, and I kind of crashed those parties, and then
there's no more.
I had nothing to talk to about those people. I had such a crazy. So when you think about this is what you want, but what's the world going to give you? The only thing you can do is just follow your heart.
Yeah.
And I think it's really healthy to think about. We are so much of who we surround ourselves by. You know, if we start to have some evaluation of going, this is not healthy. We're around some unhealthy people. They're not honest, or they're druggies, or they're just not going there. You can love them from afar, but if you keep hanging around them, you are
destined for that.
Assimilating. You are being influenced by them. And I think I was fortunate that the people that wound up being the most influential people to me at a very impressionable time in my life was when I was 19. And those are indigenous people living off the land.
Right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm jealous of that experience. And so do you go back at all? Or do you?
Oh yeah, they're like family to me.
No, I'm saying in time, sorry.
Oh, in time.
Do you go back in time and change anything? Do you go back and tell yourself anything?
I wish I could reassure myself. I mean, I wish I could have gone.
Okay, where are you going? Where is it? Like, what point in time, and where are you at that point in time where you just go, hey, you're on the right path? You're in Hawaii. You're a student at the university there. You are homeless.
Yeah.
And you keep your clothes scattered about campus under, like, what, in drums or something?
In 5-gallon buckets.
In 5-gallon buckets, just to keep them, like, dry and together. And so, like, that kid... Was he? And so, by the way, if you're listening, that's a real thing. That's a story that Hazen told me. So is that kid full of doubt? Does he need to be reassured, or is it better that he's not because of what he's able to pull off?
There are a couple things going on there. Like I said, I was 19. I was incredibly naive. I thought I'd go down there to Ecuador, hide in bushes, not talk to anyone so I wouldn't get
Kidnapped?
kidnapped by
Okay.
some weird raper dude.
Okay.
And I thought I was just going to do that, go to Ecuador and do that. Well, it didn't wind up being like that, but I was that naive.
Okay.
But then you start rolling with the punches. Things are coming. I would have never thought that I would have met these indigenous people here. I would have never. I had my own understandings of what foreigners were how they were gonna treat me, until I found out firsthand that mi casa es su casa
Is a real
and
thing.
that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and people taking care of you and having some kind of like trust in the world. And then after I started to kind of find my own successes, going, wow, I survived going into the jungle. When you go into the jungle the very first time, you don't even know where to sit your ass.
Right.
Everything is covered with dirt,
Yeah.
moss, spiders.
Yeah.
And by the time you're done spending time out in nature like that, you're living in it. You know
Yeah.
where to sit. You
Yeah.
know you're friends with the spiders, and you're a different person.
Yeah.
By the time I had these successes in Ecuador, that was like, I guess, meant for me, my path, I started to see, like, I was conditioned to being uncomfortable. So
Oh, so this is the tie-in to the Hawaii thing.
yeah, this is the tie into, like, I've already been living outside. I've been living outside without electricity for 8 months. I went there every year for 5 years after that. I was familiar with knowing where my food came from.
Got it.
I knew it could come from the ocean.
Yeah.
I knew I could learn. I knew my trees and botany well enough to know that I could go source my food from there.
Okay.
And I was going to school because of my passion, but I had no way of affording living in Hawaii.
Right.
I was fortunate that I had a scholarship to go there based on these experiences that I had in
Right,
South America.
yeah.
But
Based off the
again, I think a
experiences,
lot of it
based
was-
off of a paper that you wrote or something, or just
I
talking with them.
I went, again, like I got to say, when I was 19, I dropped out of school. I've never been a strong student. I could barely read. I was literally in classes all through high school, grade school. My classmates had Down syndrome because I was in their classes. I was pulled away. I was not a strong student. I just learned differently.
This is for my nephew. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Good. No,
and,
because yeah.
and I guess that way of learning differently, I had to learn hands-on. I had to do it without people making fun of me, so I had to do it on my own somehow. And eventually I found my own confidence because I wasn't getting it in school. Teachers were teaching me that I was not up to par with all the other students. The students were telling me that I wasn't cool or capable and I was a nerd. But then it was a whole nother world out there that saw something in me that's outside of the standard that we all live towards.
Yeah,
and I think
right,
you look
right,
around,
right. Yeah.
I stopped living to the standard of whatever the expectations of what other people have. That's not right.
Yeah.
Do what your heart feels.
I mean, when you looking at where you live, it's like this is. I'm sorry to use this word, but you are living at a level of cool that people can't even necessarily know to aspire to. They're trying to like make these, like architecturally, they're trying to make these places, or they're interesting, functional, and cool, and you just like did it. You know what I mean? I know it wasn't easy that you did it. But this is we're sitting in front of a house that you made, in a barn, in a studio that you made, in a car that you fixed up, and I don't know. It's cool. But the thing is,
Thank you.
Are you doing it to be cool?
No, I just
not.
do what I love. Like that.
Everything I do is to be cool,
I could
and
buy
I
a
fail
brand new car,
constantly.
And yeah, it's functional, but I can't fall in love with it.
No, you can't fall in love with that thing because that's a scary. Is that a pickup truck behind me? This is the truck he picked me up in last night. That was the scariest ride. I didn't want to say anything as it was happening, but I was like, if I go down, at least I'm going down with Hazen, and it'll be a good story. I don't know if this thing is going to make it around the next turn. And I stopped leaning against the door because I realized that door could give out at any point.
That's pretty funny. Okay, we got to stay on. We're going all over because I can tell you about the car and these things that mean so much to me. We'll go back into that.
Yeah.
So remind me to go back there. But going back in time, what would I say to myself? There were times in my life where I was so insecure.
Right.
Because I was living to other people's standards.
Right.
And I still am. My kryptonite is heartbreaks. I invest my heart into somebody. It doesn't work out. I've gone through the worst bouts of depression. due to insecurities, due to things not working out like they're supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
like suicidal even. Like
Does that-
I'm not a superhero. I'm a person like everybody else that has these challenges. What could I say to myself way back when to console myself somehow? Say, so many of these things happen for a reason. Pay attention. Use these hardships to better yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And let it be a reset button,
Yeah.
because maybe that path that you were going
Mm-hmm.
was not working for you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I said, those things only happen during the hardest times in our life.
Right.
So I wish I could give myself, just console myself, be with myself and say, these hard times will pass. These people that are making fun of you or talking behind your back that you're so caught up with don't mean nearly as much as how powerful you are yourself.
But does that take away from your growth? If you have someone reassuring you that it's going to work out?
Well, that would have been me, because it was like my secret friend.
Got
I
it.
didn't have
Okay.
anybody else
Okay.
doing that.
Yeah, right. Okay. So you're still going to grow from it because you're just like, you know, you don't come in at the beginning of it. You come in the middle of it saying like, you know what I mean? But like, okay, I'm going to relieve you. It's going to work out. So you can pull out, you can pull out of this early.
You keep saying, what can we do? What can we have changed
Yeah.
in our lives?
Yeah.
The only thing is like, I wish I could have had the confidence to go, these times will pass.
Yeah.
There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And what happens in our lives, if we have a challenging life, is we survive them.
Mm-hmm.
And we realize, I've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm this much more conditioned to this kind of uncomfort. This will pass. Use this as an opportunity to be better, to find better people,
Mm-hmm.
to find better positions in life. And if there was somebody, the older me, go, don't jump off the bridge.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yep.
Grow. New things will happen.
Yeah. I promise you that every single person listening to this, to us talk, can relate to what you're saying. Every single person, whether they put on airs or front that they don't live that way, or they don't have those thoughts. I promise you, every single person is thinking like, I wish I had that too. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it there, and we're gonna continue this conversation at another point.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a really solid, beautiful takeaway for anybody who's listening, because it's not like you grow and you get to be our age and those things stop. They continue.
Right.
Just know that you have your older self to fall back on. That's going to come back and be like, it's going to be okay. Just let it all pass. Relationship, business, money, decision, any of those kind of things. Just like do your best. Don't give up on them.
Mm-hmm.
Persevere, and it will pass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We never got to the NLT, but we're going to drink it right now.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother.